He had never expected anything complicated. Daniel Hayes was a quiet man who believed in simple things: a steady job, a calm life, and someone to share the silence with. Living on the mining colony of Archon 7 had shaped him into someone practical and patient. The colony floated on the edge of known space, far from the crowded cities of Earth, surrounded by dusty asteroid belts and distant stars that blinked like slow-breathing lights. Life there was predictable, sometimes lonely, but safe. When humanity joined the Interstellar Alliance, many new programs were introduced to help different species understand each other. Some humans became traders, some explorers, and some diplomats. Daniel remained an engineer, repairing equipment and maintaining the colony's power systems. He rarely thought about adventure, but after years of watching others build families and connections, he decided to try the Harmony Bond Initiative, a cultural partnership program that matched individuals across worlds. Daniel's application was simple. He wrote honestly about himself. He described his quiet personality, his love for repairing machines, and his hope for a partner who wanted stability rather than excitement. He imagined meeting a human woman from another colony, someone who also wanted peace. He imagined shared meals, conversations about daily life, and evenings watching the stars from the observation deck. Weeks passed after he submitted the form. He almost forgot about it until a notification appeared on his terminal. The message was brief but official. He had been matched. The system instructed him to arrive at the docking station at a specific time to meet his assigned partner. Daniel felt nervous but hopeful. The docking station was busier than usual when he arrived. People gathered along the viewing windows, waiting for incoming transports carrying participants from across the Alliance. Some were laughing, some anxious, some holding small gifts for their partners. The transport ship arrived slowly, its metallic surface reflecting starlight. The doors opened, and passengers began stepping out one by one. Daniel searched the crowd, expecting someone human. Instead, he noticed a sudden shift in the atmosphere around him. Conversations became quieter. People moved aside, creating space without being asked. A tall figure stepped down the ramp with controlled movements. Her posture was straight, almost formal, and her presence carried a quiet weight that drew attention without effort. She was clearly not human. Her skin carried a faint silver tone that caught the light, and her eyes held a calm intensity that made others look away after only a moment. Daniel checked his terminal again, thinking there must be a mistake. But the name displayed clearly: Lysara. She approached him with measured steps. When she stopped in front of him, she studied his face carefully, as if memorizing details. Her voice was soft but precise when she spoke his name, Daniel Hayes. He nodded, unsure what to say.
"Yeah, that's me."
Around them, people watched quietly, curiosity mixed with uncertainty. Daniel felt heat rising in his face. This was not what he had imagined. He had expected something familiar, something easy to understand.
"I was informed you requested a peaceful partnership," she said.
"Yes, I did. I was informed the same," she replied. Her words were formal, but there was no coldness in her tone. Instead, he sensed something deeper beneath her calm exterior. It was not immediately clear what it was, but he felt it strongly enough to push aside his initial surprise. They began walking toward the exit together. Daniel noticed that people gave them space without being asked. Some stared openly. Others whispered. He felt protective without knowing why. Perhaps it was because she looked alone despite her composed posture. On the way to the colony transport, he tried to start a conversation. "Have you visited human colonies before?" "No," she said. "This is my first."
Archon 7 isn't very exciting."
"Mostly mining and maintenance work."
"That may be suitable," she said. "I do not seek excitement." "Ah!" Her answer surprised him.
It sounded like something he might have said himself. During the journey back to the colony, silence settled between them. Daniel worried that he should say more, but he wasn't sure what topics were appropriate. He noticed how she watched everything carefully, observing human behavior with quiet focus. Eventually, he gathered the courage to ask, "If you don't mind me asking, why did you join the program?" She did not answer immediately. When she finally spoke, her voice carried a slight heaviness. "I needed a new beginning." He sensed there was more behind those words, but did not press further. The colony greeted them with a warm, artificial sunset as the transport landed. Archon 7 was built inside a large domed environment, filled with simple buildings and narrow pathways connecting work areas. The air smelled faintly of metal and soil. People paused to look as they passed. Daniel felt nervous again. He wondered what others would think, but instead of feeling embarrassed, he found himself wanting to make sure she felt welcome. He showed her the small apartment prepared for partnership participants. It was modest but comfortable, with 2 sleeping areas, a shared kitchen, and a wide window facing the stars. She walked through slowly, touching surfaces as if testing their reality. "This is sufficient," she said. He smiled slightly.
That's good. I was worried it might feel too small. Size is not important, she replied.
"Peace is..." Her words stayed with him long after she said them. The first evening was quiet. Daniel cooked a simple meal and offered it to her. She watched carefully before tasting it, then nodded politely. He noticed small signs of tension leaving her posture as time passed. Later, while sitting by the window, she revealed more about herself. She belonged to a warrior species known for discipline and honor. Her previous life had been structured around duty and responsibility. She spoke of her former partner only briefly, but the sadness in her voice made it clear that loss had shaped her deeply. Daniel listened without interrupting. He did not know how to comfort someone carrying such history, so he did what felt natural. He stayed present, allowing silence to exist without pressure. As days passed, they began learning each other's routines. She woke early and practiced quiet exercises that looked like controlled movement combined with meditation. He worked long shifts maintaining colony systems and returned home, tired but content. Their conversations grew slowly but naturally. He showed her music from Earth. She shared stories about distant worlds he had never imagined. Each exchange revealed new layers of understanding. However, beneath the calm surface, Daniel sensed that their partnership would not remain simple for long. Strange messages began appearing in colony communications, subtle enough that most people ignored them, but noticeable to someone who worked with systems every day. He did not mention them immediately, unsure if they were important. One evening, while they watched the stars together, he realized something had changed inside him. The life he had planned, a normal partner, a predictable future, no longer seemed as meaningful as this unexpected connection. He had expected something ordinary, but instead, he felt like he stood at the beginning of something far greater, something that might change both of their lives in ways neither of them fully understood yet. And as he looked at Lysara sitting quietly beside him, her eyes reflecting distant starlight, he began to understand that sometimes the universe did not give people what they expected. It gave them what they needed. Life on Archon 7 slowly settled into a rhythm that felt both strange and comfortable for Daniel. Each day followed familiar patterns, but now there was another presence sharing his space. And that changed everything in small ways he had not expected. Lysara moved quietly through the apartment, always aware of her surroundings, she learned quickly, adapting to human customs with careful observation rather than direct questions. At first, their conversations were short and practical. They spoke about meals, schedules, and basic routines. Daniel noticed that she rarely expressed strong emotion openly, yet her actions revealed more than her words ever could. She always prepared tea before he returned from work, even though she never mentioned doing it for him. When he asked about it once, she simply said that she had noticed humans appreciated small comforts after long labor. The colony residents remained curious. News traveled fast in small communities, and everyone knew that Daniel had been matched with an alien widow. Some people treated Lasara politely but cautiously. Others stared too long, unsure how to behave around someone from a warrior species. Daniel worried that she might feel isolated, but she did not complain. Instead, she watched and learned, slowly understanding the relaxed nature of human social life. One evening, Daniel invited her to a community gathering held near the hydroponic gardens. He hesitated before suggesting it, unsure whether she would feel comfortable among strangers. To his surprise, she agreed without hesitation. The gathering was simple but lively. People shared food, played music, and exchanged stories about their work. Children ran between tables while older residents laughed and talked about past adventures. Lasara stood quietly at first, observing everything with focused attention. Daniel stayed close, ready to help if she felt overwhelmed. A group of engineers approached them, asking polite questions about her homeworld. She answered calmly, describing landscapes filled with towering structures and training fields. Her voice carried respect for her culture, but there was also distance, as if she was no longer fully part of it. As the evening progressed, someone started playing an old Earth song. Without thinking, Daniel encouraged Lasara to join him near the dance area. She hesitated, clearly uncertain about the idea, but eventually allowed him to guide her gently. Her movements were stiff at first, shaped by discipline rather than relaxation, but gradually she began to adjust. A small smile appeared briefly on her face, and Daniel felt unexpectedly proud of that moment. Afterward, she admitted that human gatherings felt unusual yet calming. "Your people do not hide emotion," she said. "It is different from my world." Daniel shrugged lightly. "We're not perfect, but we try to make each other feel welcome." She considered his words carefully, as if storing them for later reflection. Meanwhile, Daniel's work began to grow more complicated. Strange signal patterns appeared within the colony's communication systems. At first he assumed they were harmless interference from nearby mining operations. But the signals repeated with unusual precision. They followed structured patterns, almost like messages waiting to be understood. He reported the anomaly to the colony's supervisors, but they dismissed it as minor technical noise. Still, something about it bothered him. Late at night, he studied the data again, trying to identify its origin. One night, while he worked at his terminal, Lasara approached quietly and watched the screen. Her eyes narrowed slightly as she observed the symbols. "This pattern," she said slowly. "It resembles a signal structure used by my people." Daniel turned toward her in surprise. "Are you sure?" "I cannot confirm," she replied carefully, "but it feels familiar." He showed her more examples. She studied them for a long time, her expression growing more serious. "These are not random," she finally said. "They are structured communication signals. The realization changed everything." If the signals were connected to her species, it could mean someone was trying to reach her specifically. Daniel felt a mix of curiosity and concern. "Do you think someone is searching for you?" She did not answer immediately. When she finally spoke, her voice carried uncertainty. "I left without informing many people. Some may consider that unfinished business." He sensed that her past was more complicated than she had shared. Still, he chose not to pressure her. Instead, he offered quiet support, reminding her that they would face whatever came together. Over the following days, tension slowly grew beneath the calm surface of their lives. Lasara became more alert, often pausing to listen to distant sounds or watch passing ships through the window. Daniel noticed these changes but tried to maintain normal routines, believing stability would help both of them. Despite the underlying tension, their bond continued to deepen. They began sharing personal stories more openly. Daniel spoke about growing up on Earth, his decision to leave for frontier colonies, and the loneliness he sometimes felt among endless machinery. Lasara listened carefully, asking thoughtful questions that showed genuine interest. In return, she revealed more about her former life. She had once trained as a strategic advisor within her society, responsible for guiding leaders during conflicts. Her previous partner had been a respected commander. After his loss, she struggled to find purpose. Joining the Harmony Bond initiative had been an attempt to escape expectations placed upon her. Daniel realized that she was far more than a warrior. She was someone searching for identity beyond duty. One evening, while they prepared dinner together, the colony's emergency alert sounded briefly before shutting off. It lasted only a few seconds, but the interruption created unease among residents. Later reports described it as a technical malfunction, yet Daniel felt certain it was connected to the mysterious signals. He returned to his workstation that night and discovered new data. The signals had grown stronger and more direct, as if the sender had moved closer. When he shared the information with Lasara, she remained silent for a long time. "If this is truly from my people," she said eventually, "their arrival may not be peaceful." Daniel felt a chill despite the warm air of the apartment. "Do you think they would harm the colony?" "I do not know," she answered honestly. But misunderstanding can create conflict where none was intended. He thought carefully about her words. Humanity had joined the Alliance partly because of its ability to adapt and mediate between different cultures. Perhaps this situation required that same approach. The next morning, he contacted Colon leadership again, presenting evidence that the signals were structured communications rather than random interference. This time, they agreed to monitor the situation more closely. As days passed, anticipation filled the air. Residents noticed increased patrols and scanning activity. Some began to speculate about possible threats. Rumors spread quickly, creating tension among people who had once lived peacefully. Through all of this, Daniel and Lasara continued supporting each other. She helped him remain calm by sharing meditation practices from her culture. He helped her relax by introducing small human habits, like watching old films or cooking new recipes together. One quiet night, they sat by the window again, watching stars move slowly across the sky. The signals continued to pulse faintly in the background, invisible but ever-present. "I did not expect this," Daniel admitted. "Neither did I," she said softly. He looked at her thoughtfully. "Do you regret coming here?" She shook her head. "No. For the first time in many cycles, I feel balanced." Her answer reassured him. Despite uncertainty, something meaningful had grown between them. Yet deep down, both understood that the approaching signals marked the beginning of something larger. The peaceful life Daniel once imagined had already changed, and the future now carried unknown challenges that would test not only their partnership, but the strength of humanity itself. And as the stars outside continued their silent movement, a distant vessel began its slow journey toward Archon 7, carrying answers that could reshape everything they believed about trust, loss, and connection. The signals had grown stronger over the past few days, pulsing through the colony's systems with a pattern that could no longer be ignored. Daniel worked tirelessly, scanning each transmission, decoding fragments, and trying to determine their origin. His usual routines had vanished, replaced by long hours of vigilance. Lysara, though quiet, remained at his side, offering insight when the structured signals hinted at something familiar. She had learned much about human systems in just a short time, but her instincts as a warrior told her that these messages were more than a simple communication. They were a test. Daniel felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. He had never imagined that his life would involve protecting the colony from potential interstellar conflict. Yet here he was, translating alien codes and preparing for scenarios he had only read about in reports. He glanced at Lysara often, noticing the way her eyes scanned every screen, every waveform, as if she could predict danger before it arrived. There was strength in her vigilance, but also a shadow of worry that made him more aware of the stakes. He had come into this expecting a peaceful life with a simple partner, yet the universe had given him far more than he had bargained for. One afternoon, as Daniel analyzed the latest batch of signals, a sudden interruption startled him. A clear, structured message had been embedded within the chaos, a series of symbols that Lasara immediately recognized. She froze, her posture rigid, and her hand hovered over the console.
"This is from my people," she said, her voice low and tense. "They are nearby."
He had suspected the signals were personal, but he had not imagined that a vessel could be approaching so quickly. Nearby.
"How close?"
he asked. She traced the pattern across the data streams.
"Too close for comfort. They will arrive in less than a standard cycle."
Daniel understood immediately. A standard cycle in human terms was a few hours, but in interstellar travel, it was a heartbeat away. Panic threatened to creep into his mind, but he pushed it aside. He had to remain calm. The safety of the colony, and perhaps more, depended on it. As they prepared for the approaching vessel, Lasara took charge with quiet authority. She issued instructions to Daniel, explaining how to monitor the signals, track the vessel's path, and anticipate possible actions. She had not been on a human colony before, yet her knowledge of interstellar protocols, military strategies, and her instinctive understanding of potential threats turned their apartment into a command center. Daniel felt both awe and relief. He was in uncharted territory, but he had an ally who seemed to anticipate every challenge. When the vessel finally appeared in the colony's observation window, the tension was palpable. It was sleek, dark, and angular, unlike any human ship. Its surface shimmered faintly, reflecting starlight like a living metal. Observers in the colony paused their work, holding their breath. Daniel felt a cold shiver run down his spine, realizing that the vessel's proximity could provoke fear or panic at any moment. Lasara stepped closer to the window, her eyes narrowing. She could feel the intent behind the vessel, subtle vibrations and energy patterns she had been trained to detect for years. "They are cautious," she said. "They do not intend immediate aggression, but their presence is a warning." Daniel swallowed hard.
"A warning? Against us?"
"Not necessarily," she replied.
"They seek communication, but misunderstandings can become dangerous quickly."
He nodded, understanding that diplomacy would be necessary, even in the face of an unknown alien species. Humanity had joined the Interstellar Alliance not to dominate, but to navigate situations exactly like this: conflict without violence, misunderstanding without disaster. Daniel quickly contacted colony leadership, explaining what he and Lasara had observed. Some officials were skeptical, but the data she provided was undeniable. They agreed to allow a controlled attempted contact, with Daniel and Lasara acting as intermediaries. The preparations were tense. The colony's defenses were on standby. Engineers monitored the energy shields, and every resident was advised to remain indoors. Daniel felt the weight of responsibility keenly. One wrong move could spark hostility, yet one correct approach could avert disaster entirely. When communication channels were finally established, Lasara took the lead. Her voice was firm, measured, and calm as she transmitted a greeting in a format the vessel could understand. Daniel watched the readings carefully, noting the fluctuations in the alien energy patterns. The vessel responded almost immediately, a series of light pulses and harmonic vibrations that conveyed complex information. Lasara translated the signal slowly, explaining each nuance to Daniel.
"They believe I have abandoned my people," she said. "They do not understand my decision to join the Harmony Bond Initiative."
Daniel considered her words carefully. She had left her world without telling them, seeking a new life, but now the past had arrived to challenge her.
"Then we need to show them your intentions," he said.
Peacefully. Together, they worked to craft a message that conveyed her truth, that she had sought a fresh start, not betrayal. Daniel suggested incorporating human approaches, empathy, honesty, and transparency, while Lasara added cultural context from her own species. The combination was delicate, precise, and required patience. Hours passed as they refined the message. Outside, the alien vessel remained stationary, observing, waiting. Daniel felt a strange sense of unity as he and Lasara worked side by side. The situation was dangerous, yes, but he realized that their bond, unexpected, forged in the quiet moments of shared meals, music, and conversation, was the key to navigating this challenge. Finally, the message was transmitted. A tense silence followed. Daniel watched the readings, noting subtle changes in the vessel's energy field. Lysara's posture remained composed, but her fingers twitched slightly, betraying her anticipation. Then, a new pattern emerged from the vessel. It was slower, less sharp, more harmonious. Lysara's eyes softened as she interpreted it. "They accept my explanation," she said quietly. "They understand." Relief washed over Daniel, though he remained cautious. Lysara's people were disciplined, trained for strategy and vigilance. Even understanding carried the weight of scrutiny. The vessel lingered briefly before moving slowly away, fading into the distance. Daniel turned to Lysara. "You did it," he said softly.
"We did it," she corrected him. "Together." The moment marked a turning point. For the first time, Lysara openly smiled, not a brief gesture, but a genuine expression of relief and gratitude. Daniel felt warmth spread through him, realizing that the experience had changed both of them. They had faced something far beyond what either had expected, and they had emerged stronger, united by trust and collaboration.
In the days that followed, the colony resumed its usual routines, though the tension remained as a quiet undercurrent.
Residents spoke of the incident in hushed tones, expressing admiration for Daniel and Lysara's calm handling of the situation. The story of the human and the alien widow spread through the Alliance, highlighting humanity's ability to navigate complex scenarios through intelligence, patience, and empathy, rather than sheer force. Daniel noticed subtle changes in Lysara. She moved more freely, laughed softly at human jokes, and occasionally sought out small gestures of comfort. He realized that she was beginning to trust not just him, but the colony itself. Embracing aspects of human life she had once found foreign or trivial, they continued to analyze the lingering signals, learning that remnants of Lysara's past connections still monitored nearby sectors. Each signal carried pieces of information, reminders of her responsibilities and former life. Together, Daniel and Lysara decoded them, turning what could have been a source of anxiety into an opportunity for understanding and preparation. One evening, after a long day of work and study, they returned to their apartment. The window overlooked the colony's hydroponic gardens, bathed in the soft glow of artificial lights. Daniel noticed the calm in Lysara's expression as she gazed at the stars.
"You handled them well," he said. "I only responded as needed," she replied.
Your guidance helped. Humans are different than I expected.
Different can be good. She turned to him, her gaze steady. Different can teach much if one is willing to learn. He nodded, feeling the truth in her words. Humanity had earned its place among the stars not through dominance, but through adaptability, curiosity, and empathy. And in this small apartment on a distant colony, he had learned a personal lesson in the same principle. The days that followed were calmer, yet Daniel remained vigilant. Signals continued to appear intermittently, though none posed immediate danger. Together, he and Lysara developed monitoring routines, studying patterns, preparing for any eventuality. Their work brought them closer, each discovery and challenge reinforcing a partnership built on trust and mutual respect. Beyond the signals and potential threats, the bond between them deepened in unexpected ways. Shared meals became opportunities for conversation about past experiences, hopes, and fears. Walks through the colony's artificial landscapes revealed common joys and discoveries. Daniel learned about Lysara's culture, her sense of honor, and the lessons she had carried from her past. She learned about human resilience, humor, and the small, meaningful gestures that defined relationships. One evening, as they walked beneath the glowing paths of the colony, Daniel asked quietly, "Do you ever regret coming here?" Lysara paused, considering. "I have faced challenges I did not anticipate," she said.
But no. This place, these people, and you have taught me that life can hold more than duty and loss. It can hold hope. Daniel smiled, feeling a warmth that went beyond words. I think I've learned the same. Their steps continued through the quiet colony streets, the stars above reflecting in Lysara's eyes. Together, they understood that the universe was unpredictable, sometimes dangerous, but also filled with opportunity for connection, growth, and courage. They had faced their first true test, and it had strengthened both their partnership and their understanding of humanity's role in the greater galaxy. And yet both knew that more challenges would come. The signals were not fully understood. Remnants of Lysara's past still lingered, and the galaxy was vast and unpredictable. But for now, they allowed themselves to simply exist in the moment, learning, trusting, and preparing for whatever the universe would demand next. In the quiet of their shared space, with soft light reflecting off metallic walls and the hum of life continuing beyond, Daniel realized that he had expected a simple companionship, but had received something extraordinary. Together, they were no longer just two individuals. They were a team, ready to face the uncertainties of space with courage, intelligence, and the quiet strength that defined humanity. The days after the first encounter with the alien vessel passed with a strange mix of calm and tension. Life on Archon 7 slowly returned to its routines, but Daniel and Lysara both knew that their lives had changed forever. Every glance at the sky reminded them of the signals that had pulsed through the colony's systems, and the vessel that had hovered just beyond the observation window. They could not ignore the vastness of space or the presence of a species that Lysara had once called family. It was a constant reminder that the universe was larger, more complex, and sometimes more dangerous than they had imagined. Daniel tried to maintain a sense of normalcy. He continued his engineering work, repairing mining equipment and monitoring power grids, while also checking the signals with greater diligence than ever before. Lysara stayed by his side, her attention sharp, analyzing patterns and advising him on interpretation. She had begun to trust him completely, allowing him into decisions that previously would have been hers alone. Their partnership had deepened into something neither had anticipated, a blend of trust, dependence, and respect. Despite the ongoing uncertainty, they sought moments of ordinary life. They shared meals that Daniel prepared with care, introducing Lysara to Earth foods while also learning the rituals she had brought from her own world. She taught him the meaning of certain gestures and actions that were deeply symbolic in her culture. Each small interaction built understanding between them, bridging two worlds in ways that felt natural yet remarkable. One morning, a message arrived from the Interstellar Alliance, requesting a formal report on the recent events. Daniel prepared the technical data, detailing the signals, the vessel, and the communications that had taken place. Lysara reviewed the message, offering corrections and context from her cultural perspective. The resulting report was comprehensive, reflecting both human analytical skill and the insight of someone deeply familiar with alien protocol. Submitting the report did not end the tension. Days later, a second vessel approached the colony. This one moved more cautiously than the first, its size larger, its form unfamiliar. It carried no visible weapons but radiated a presence that was difficult to ignore. Daniel and Lysara immediately began monitoring it. Unlike the first encounter, there was no initial communication. Both knew that the moment of contact could either resolve lingering tensions or ignite new challenges. Lysara took command, naturally. She instructed Daniel on which systems to watch, how to interpret energy fluctuations, and how to anticipate possible moves from the unknown species. Daniel followed her guidance, realizing that her instincts and strategic thinking often surpassed what he could conceive on his own. Together, they created a detailed map of the vessel's movements, predicting trajectories and potential landing zones. The colony's leadership, alerted to the situation, gathered in the main control room. Daniel and Lysara explained their analysis, and decisions were made based on their recommendations. They maintained a careful balance between caution and openness, avoiding any action that might provoke hostility. It was a delicate dance of diplomacy, strategy, and patience. After several hours, the vessel initiated communication. Unlike the first encounter, its signals were more complex and layered, Daniel worked to decode them, while Lysara interpreted the cultural context behind the patterns. She recognized subtle indicators of hierarchy, intent, and expectation within the messages. The process was slow, requiring meticulous attention to detail, yet both found a rhythm in their collaboration. Through the communication, it became clear that the approaching species had come not merely to observe, but to assess Lysara's choices. Her past decisions, her alliance with a human, and her departure from her own people were all under scrutiny. Misunderstandings could easily escalate into conflict. Daniel realized the weight of responsibility on their shoulders. One misstep could have consequences not only for them, but for the colony, and for broader interstellar relations. Together, they crafted a response. Daniel suggested framing the situation through human reasoning, emphasizing empathy, transparency, and shared goals. Lysara added precision, ensuring that cultural nuances from her species were respected. The result was a message that balanced diplomacy, honesty, and strategic foresight. Sending it required courage, as both understood that the recipients could react unpredictably. The response was received and analyzed by the vessel. Moments of silence followed, during which the colony seemed to hold its breath. Then, a series of signals arrived, slow, measured, and confirming that Lysara's explanation had been understood. Daniel and Lysara felt relief wash over them, though they remained alert, aware that this was only one step in a long process of trust-building. With the immediate crisis resolved, life on the colony slowly returned to a semblance of normalcy. Residents resumed work and social routines, though subtle changes persisted. The story of Daniel and Lysara's handling of the situation spread among the settlers, fostering admiration and curiosity. Their partnership became a quiet symbol of human adaptability and the potential for peaceful coexistence with alien species. Daniel and Lysara took the opportunity to focus on personal growth. They studied each other's cultures more deeply, sharing traditions, languages, and philosophies. Daniel learned to perform basic rituals from Lysara's people, while she embraced simple human customs that emphasized connection and shared experiences. This exchange enriched both of their lives, strengthening trust and understanding. One evening, while observing the stars from the colony's observation deck, Daniel reflected on the journey they had undertaken. He had expected a simple partnership, but the universe had delivered something extraordinary. In Lysara, he had found not only companionship, but also a guide, a partner, and a teacher. Their connection had been forged in the crucible of uncertainty, shaped by the challenges of alien contact and the complexities of interstellar diplomacy. Lysara, standing beside him, felt the same depth of emotion. She had arrived at Archon, 7 carrying grief and uncertainty, yet she had discovered new purpose, trust, and understanding. The human beside her had shown resilience, courage, and adaptability that had surpassed her expectations. Together, they had navigated a landscape of unknown dangers, cultural misunderstandings, and personal vulnerabilities, emerging stronger and more connected. As the night deepened, they discussed future plans. Daniel suggested further collaboration with the Interstellar Alliance to strengthen communication protocols and prepare for potential contact with other species. Lysara agreed, recognizing the value of shared knowledge and strategic planning. Their work would help prevent future misunderstandings and foster peaceful relations across the galaxy. In the days that followed, subtle threats continued to appear. Signals from distant sectors hinted at unresolved tensions and potential conflicts. Daniel and Lysara maintained vigilance, monitoring systems and preparing responses. Their partnership became not just personal, but professional, combining human innovation with alien strategic insight. Together, they created contingency plans, trained other residents in communication protocols, and ensured that the colony could respond effectively to any scenario. Despite the challenges, moments of quiet joy persisted. They shared meals, walked through the hydroponic gardens, and engaged in discussions about life, culture, and philosophy. Each moment reinforced their connection, highlighting the human capacity for empathy and the alien capacity for wisdom and discipline. Through these experiences, Daniel realized that humanity's true strength lay in adaptability and understanding. Humans did not rely solely on physical power or technological superiority. They relied on ingenuity, communication, and compassion. Lysara recognized that humans could teach her patience, perspective, and the value of building trust through small, meaningful actions. Their story became a model within the colony and beyond, demonstrating the power of cooperation across species, the importance of patience and empathy, and the potential for individuals to influence events on a larger scale. Daniel and Lysara's partnership had evolved from an unexpected assignment into a meaningful alliance, one that blended human and alien perspectives to create harmony in a complex and often unpredictable universe. In the quiet moments, as they watched the stars and contemplated the vastness of space, both understood that challenges would continue to arise. Yet they also knew that together, combining human ingenuity and alien insight, they could face whatever the future held. They had discovered that partnership was not merely about companionship, but about trust, shared purpose, and the willingness to navigate the unknown, side by side. And so, life on Archon 7 moved forward. The colony thrived under careful observation. The signals were decoded and monitored, and Daniel and Lysara continued to strengthen their bond. Each day brought new lessons, new challenges, and new opportunities for growth. In each other, they had found not only connection, but also the strength to face the uncertainties of a vast, complex galaxy. Together, they embodied a simple yet profound truth. Humanity's greatest power was not in conquest, but in understanding, courage, and the capacity to forge bonds that transcended worlds. As the stars above twinkled in quiet patterns, Daniel realized that the life he had sought, a simple, peaceful existence, had transformed into something far richer. He had gained a partner who challenged him, inspired him, and stood with him against the unknown. Lysara, too, had found a new path, one that honored her past, while embracing possibilities she had never imagined. Together, they faced the galaxy with courage, wisdom, and hope, proving that even in the vast expanse of space, connection, empathy, and partnership could create extraordinary outcomes. Their story would continue, filled with challenges, growth, and discovery. Yet, in the heart of the colony, amidst the quiet hum of life and the distant glow of stars, Daniel and Lysara had found something enduring. A bond that defied expectation, nurtured understanding, and celebrated the unique strengths of humanity. They had expected uncertainty, but what they had found was extraordinary, and for both of them, that was more than enough.